welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I'm your host, Max Mosier, here today to talk about Stranger Things Season 4, the newest season of Stranger Things on Netflix. I'm here with two other Infinity Bros today. It is Infinity Bro Robbie first. Robbie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I am hard Mountain Dewing it right now.
Mountain Dewing it so hard.
Mountain Dewing it so hard.
Scott Higa last week, guest on episode 120, said that if he could build the perfect Infinity Bro, he would pick your shoulders. Robbie, I just want to double down and tell you I would also pick your shoulders.
I would like to say that if you want to see my shoulders, you should pay for the Patreon and then you can see my shoulders.
You're plugging something we haven't fully developed yet.
I just did.
Okay, there's not a Patreon officially set yet, but we might be making one. So if you want one, reach out to us.
There better be by the time this is aired.
If you think we should have a Patreon, reach out to us. Most of you are like, please do not make me pay for anything that you do. And the other Infinity Bro here today is Jarret Curtis. Jarret, how are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Hey, go check out that Patreon for sure. You're missing some great context as to why we all have the giggles.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Oh, great. Love it.
Oh, gosh. Jarret, congratulations on...
What'd Jarret do?
I was just going to try to pat him on the back for something. There's nothing really to pat him on the back for. Hey, we got a 200,000 viewed TikTok. That's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
It's not Jarret's, but you know.
No,
Right.
It's not. It's Robbie's again. Robbie's doing everything great on our podcast. Sorry, Jarret.
We'll find something. I did
bummer.
something.
Someday it's going to transfer to Twitch.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, someday it'll go to Twitch.
It's wishful thinking.
Yeah,
man.
someday it'll go to Twitch.
Hey, you know what? We had 6 people watching us this week.
This is the rockiest start of a podcast we've ever had.
This is great.
We're just
Mark's not even here, and this is the most Mark intro we've had yet.
totally. I feel like the ghost of Mark Jones has inhabited me, and I know there's an inappropriate joke he'd make if I went any further.
He's
so I'm
mad.
not gonna
Yeah,
say it.
he's just vengeful that he's not on this one because I feel like he has a lot to say about this.
Yeah, for sure. We have an iTunes rating to talk through real quick before we get to Stranger Things 4. We will get to the advertised content. Do not stress. We will get to that, but we need to make sure we check the boxes first. You can leave us a review on iTunes and Podchaser. We are very grateful for every review we get. Typically, I in the past, Jarret, have been very
Mean?
melancholy about
Salty.
Yeah, salty, rude, gregarious.
Yeah.
Flat out evil.
I wouldn't say evil, but I think I've been mean.
Yeah.
Mean is fair,
Mean's
not
fair.
evil. 2 reviews, and I have committed to this one to not being rude. So I'm going to do my
Vecna
best.
would tell you to chill.
Sure she would. And
Vecna's
this
not a girl.
Spoilers. Whoa.
spoilers. Geez, Robbie, we didn't even hit the spoiler warning yet. The Infinity Bros podcast. You can leave us a review on iTunes, Podchaser. Rocky start. If you're still here, why? This one comes from ODPH607. It says, To Infinity and Beyond, a podcast. It's a 5-star rating, and they say, solid podcast that really captures your attention from the jump. Great production and a conversation by friends that welcomes you in with funny... What is going on right now? Something's
okay?
vibrating on my table. What on earth? Okay, Jiminy Christmas right now. Oh my gosh, my PS5 controller's going bananas right now.
Right. That's what I would say too for the Patreon folks at home.
Great production and a conversation by friends that welcome you in with funny takes and solid points of discussion. Check it out. #ODPHpod. Thank you for the review. I am not supposed to say anything mean or make any jokes about this. This is my favorite review I've ever seen. It's a 5 out of 5. I give this review 6 out of 6 stones. Robbie, what do you think?
I'm pretty sure our level, you're a 3 unless you rank Zane, so I think it's a 3. I'm pretty sure we've made that abundantly clear. Those are the rules, Max.
Do you think if somebody doesn't mention Zane that they may have not listened to our podcast?
Or just not listen to an episode where we've talked about reviews.
What percentage of listeners we have a pretty standard set of listeners, what percentage of them do you think actually know that Zane exists?
Like in real life, or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just exists in general. Like, do you think that there's like a percentage of those people that listen to our podcast regularly that think Zane isn't a real person?
just a voice that lives in my head?
Oh, Devin, like Devin.
Devin. Yeah, like my other.
Yeah, Devin's not real.
You can listen to Devin when Jarret streams on Twitch. There's the
Yeah, he
plug
sounds
for
like a
Twitch.
demon.
Yeah, Robbie, I would lean into the 20 to 30%.
Have never heard Zane's voice on the podcast.
I think 20 to 30% don't know Zane exists.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I'd go about a fourth. Yeah, 25%.
27%. That's going to be my exact guess.
Right on the money.
I like that. I don't know how we look that up. Maybe a poll of some sort.
Is Zane real?
This ODPH podcast, do you think they know that Zane exists?
Highly doubt. I give that a 5% chance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. They did say we have great production, though, so they clearly haven't listened to this episode yet.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of. You're doing great.
Well, we don't know how you've mixed this in the future. We just know that it's unhinged right now.
I know. The point I make, though, is that this for sure is my most PG-13 episode for me.
I don't know what that means.
And I don't like getting inappropriate, and I've made some jokes that I already have to edit out.
Okay,
and
hold
last
on.
week.
Okay, let's hold on for 1 second. Do you remember the Jackass episode?
Yeah, you guys talked about
Like-
penises for a good hour and a half.
We didn't talk about penises for an hour and a half.
Kinda
I
did.
said that, hey, you're going to see some Pen 15s in this. Be warned, if you watch Jackass, it's not like that's a new thing for Jackass.
Sure.
You guys kept coming back to the Pen 15 thing.
No. Mark kept coming back to the Pen 15. I did not come back to the Pen 15s. Thank you very much.
Go back and listen. Let us know.
Wait, yeah, we'll have to run the tape.
Right.
What episode was that?
Pay for a Patreon and then go back. It won't help you at all to go back. You can go back for
Please-
free, but
please
still
don't
just
listen.
pay for a Patreon just in case.
That was the worst episode. I can't believe you guys did
What a
that.
great plug.
It wasn't the worst episode. A lot of people liked that episode.
The first half of that episode was phenomenal.
I had to turn that episode off.
It's a great episode.
It was only good because Mark was there.
You did not tune in today to listen to us babble about previous episodes of our podcast. You came to hear about Stranger Things Season 4, the newest season of Stranger Things that has come back after 1,000 days off of the air. Obviously, it showed in
serious?
2016. I am serious, Robbie. Written and created by Ross and Matt Duffer. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Gatton Mazzaro, Caleb, I butchered that name again.
Goodness
Man,
gracious.
Caleb McLaughlin, Natalie Dyer, Charlie Heaton, Joe Keery, Noah Schnapp, Cara Buono, Sadie Sink. I want to make sure I'm not getting into spoilers here. Maya Hawk and Priya Ferguson. We'll leave it at that after that. We'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get any more spoilers after that.
I feel like you're fairly safe going through the cast list.
Yeah, there's a couple people I don't want to say just in case people are trying to hear our thoughts on it. It did just come out Friday. We're going to give our non-spoiler reviews on the front end while rating the show, and then we will do our spoiler rating on the back end. So for those that are on the fence about this, I know a lot of people, guys, that really haven't started this series. And I think this season's getting
Like at
more
all?
press. Well, maybe they watched one season, but they haven't continued past the first season, or they never got into it. So what I want to do is rate rate just this season, and then we'll talk about the series as a whole as well as season 4. So before we get into our ratings, I want to make sure that you as the audience are familiar with our rating system and how we rate things here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bumper for that right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
We're going to start with you, Robbie. Can you give us your non-spoiler rating of season 4 and briefly touch on a few things, but please keep the spoilers away?
Oh boy. I really like season 4. I'm really, really enjoying season 4. I think it's up there as one of the best seasons so far. I'm gonna give it, as it sits right now, a 5.5. I think it's hard to give it a 6 because it's not finished. We still got a ways to go. Can they finish this up in a glorious fashion? So right now I'll sit at 5.5. I'm teetering towards 6. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying some of the things they're doing. I saw one review earlier that talked about how they thought some of the storylines weren't that important, but I'm enjoying and I'm invested in every single storyline. So I'm really enjoying it. 5.5 out of 6. You need to watch this season.
I've been told that the Infinity Bros are like overly optimistic about everything, and we tend to give a lot more 5 and 6s than we need to. This is a 6. For what we have now, I have literally 0 complaints. I think every episode, start to finish, has captured me. Sure, there were some that were a little slow, or I would say storylines that were a little slow, but ultimately every episode fully paid off. I am losing my mind over this right now. I cannot wait till July. I'm telling everybody who hasn't watched the other seasons to go back and check them out. This delivered and then some. I think the additions to the cast and the characters that they introduce are phenomenal. And even the change in directors and writers gave me more than I expected. It had some horror elements and just paid off in spades.
Well, the people that are saying we are really optimistic clearly have not heard me talk about things, because I am not Mr. Optimistic on this show. I'm Mr. Negativity a lot of the times. I got to tell you, though, Jarret, I am right there with you, dog. Robbie, I understand your rating, and I think it's completely fair to say I can't give it a 6 till I see the next 2 episodes. So maybe I should have clarified this. We can rank just volume 1 of season 4. As far as I'm concerned, volume 1 of season 4 is a 6 out of 6. If this all holds up, this is the best season of Stranger Things, and I'm including season 1, which would be a strong number 2 for me. Robbie, you made a great point. You said there are some people that have said that certain stories do not work as well. There's a specific storyline with a group located in California that I think they reference a lot, that they say, hey, these guys didn't really do much. I would really strongly push back on that. And we're actually going to talk about one thing that I think got missed by a lot of audience members today with that group. So I'm excited about that. So maybe a little plug to keep listening. But I think this is Millie Bobby Brown's strongest season, and she's had some great seasons. This really is her carrying the weight of this character. I think this is one of the best villains we've ever seen. Basically, how I'm describing this villain without giving any spoilers away is Thanos mixed with Freddy Krueger. And I really feel like this villain, I'm hoping this villain is the villain of like season 5.
This is the final season, dude.
No, next season's the final season.
No,
nope,
I'm pretty
they
sure
have one more. They got a final season. They got a 5th season after this.
Are you sure?
I know they have a final season after this. Yes. They have one more season after this, Robbie. You can look it up. They do. They have one more season to go. I know that. I can confirm. I
swear they said this was the final season.
No, season 5 is the final season. So I'm hoping that this villain is it, but there's a chance that we could see something happen, and we'll talk about that in the spoiler review. I really enjoyed every storyline, though, Robbie. You're nailing it. Every single story had me on the edge of my seat. I was not upset when we would transition. And there are certain shows that I've watched in the past where I've been like, holy cow, I want to get away from this story to get to this story. I did not feel that way at all in this arc. Jarret, I agree with you. I think this is one of the best 6s I can give. This is like up there with, as far as I'm concerned, in television, this is up there with
WandaVision.
This is up there for me with Severance. This is up there for me with Ted Lasso. This is up there for me for From. There's just some great shows that have been going around this year. And man, did this show deliver. And 3 years was a long wait, but a tremendous job by these guys. We'll break more down in spoilers. I'll also add this. The season 4 trailer was the best trailer I've ever seen in terms of a television trailer. I think the season 4 trailer with the remix song they had in that was just awesome. How they showed Vecna out the gate. Really, really love everything they're doing here with the marketing. Season 4 is a must watch. If you have not watched Stranger Things, how I would sell this show to you is this. This is a show that you will have somebody you're rooting for. Somebody in this cast is worth following, in my opinion. And I think everybody can relate to somebody on this show. And that's unusual because in most shows you sometimes you feel like you can relate to a character, but I think every type of person is represented in this show. And I like that. And I think that's really there's excitement in that. So that's how I feel about this show. 6 out of 6 for me, 6 out of 6 for Jarret, and a 5.5 out of 6 from Robbie. Man, you should have gotten Zane's review.
Who?
Zane's got a lot of good thoughts on this. Yeah, exactly. 20% of the people are like, who the heck is he talking about? So we are going to transition to our spoiler time now to talk about this show. We are going to be spoiling everything about this show. So if you have not seen Stranger Things season 4 yet, this is your last chance. This is your spoiler warning.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
All right, guys, real quick before we get into the spoilers, can you rank the seasons from the perspective? And you can obviously talk about why you'd give season 4 the specific ranking in comparison to the others. What are your ratings of the previous seasons, and where does it rank in your pantheon for you?
Season 1 was so novel in what it was trying to do. I think that like the sort of kids on bikes genre got a renaissance with the start of this, and so season 5 still holds like a golden spot in my
Season
memory.
4 or
Sorry,
season 1?
Season 1 and holds a golden spot in my memory as like really kicking off something cool. So that one sits at a 5.5 for me. It is only shadowed by season 4 so far. That is the only reason it's a 5.5. There are some things that I'm like, man, looking back, they didn't age as well as I would like them to, because I went back and watched season 1. It's still phenomenal, still a must watch in my opinion, but 5.4 for that. Season 2 stumbled a little bit in my opinion from the first season. I don't think it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but that one's sitting at a 5 for me. It did some interesting stuff. It pushed the narrative along. I think what it did more than like sort of the overarching story, I think the characters began to develop more and more in that one, which was important because obviously like that's a big draw to what we have now. It's not always like the villain that we're looking for or any of that. It's really like these characters and their lives. And so still a must watch. Season 3 is where I think they really started.
Oh man, I feel the opposite. That's interesting.
Season 3 to me is good, not great.
Oh gosh,
the
yeah,
whole-
couldn't disagree more.
The whole like, and these are my favorite characters out of all of them, but the whole like mall crew, I felt like they had a lot they could have done with that, and they just sort of like dropped the ball a little bit and fumbled with them. They furthered their character arcs and they furthered their stories, but ultimately like the Starcourt stuff just, I don't know, fell sort of flat for me. And then season 4, as you know, is a 6 out of 6. It's brilliant. It's phenomenal.
I want to respond to that, Jarret. So my rating would be 6 out of 6 for season 1, 6 out of 6 right now for season 4, volume 1. Obviously, I agree with Robbie. That can change with 2 episodes, which is such a unique decision by Netflix in and of itself to do this. That's a separate conversation, though.
I just think, honestly, right now, it's the MCU's like television universe has made me very worried for finales for some reason, because they've been fumbling them. And I know this is completely different. This is Netflix. And
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But like that just makes me feel like you can ruin an entire season. And Game of Thrones is another one.
Yeah.
You can ruin an entire season with 1 or 2 episodes.
I mean, some people with Lost, some people with Breaking Bad. I mean, I loved both of the endings for Breaking Bad and Lost, but a lot of people didn't like those endings. Dexter, another great example. I think a season finale can ruin an entire buildup. So I totally understand the sentiment, Robbie. I guess for me, Jarret, I'm gonna push back on season 3. I really thought season 3 artistically and visually really was I still would hold, actually, visually, it might be the best season still. I'm not a big horror guy, so I know that might be really, really sacrilegious to the season 4 lovers right now. I just loved what they did with the mall court. I really kind of have the complete opposite reaction. We don't have to debate that today. But I'd give that a 6 out of 6. But I completely agree about season 2. I'd give season 2 a 4 is how I'd look at it. But I look at that as kind of the filler. I think the Duffer Brothers didn't know in season 2 how to respond. I think season 3 and season 4, and I would rank, after that I'd go season, right now it'd be 4, 1, 3, 2 would be my order. So I'd rank it a 6, but I still would say that season 1 is better just because it's that was such a unique season. No,
Are you sure you haven't had anything to drink?
I love
Are
that.
you positive?
No bevies tonight. That's my opinion on it.
You're being
Yeah.
ridiculous right now.
I'm sorry, Robbie. I'm sorry. Robbie, go ahead and rank me.
Yeah.
Correct me, Robbie.
Yeah, teach him.
I have the exact same order as Jarret. It goes okay, maybe no, not exact same. It goes season 1, 4, 2, 3. 3, like, talk about filler. 3 is filler. Like, 3 is just so we get the mind flayer. Like, that's all 3 is.
This is supposed to be a recap of season 4, not a debate season 3.
Well, that's what this.
That's what it's becoming.
You called it a
turned into.
6.
That's what it's become.
Ridiculous. It's
No,
ridiculous.
yeah, I feel you.
No, season 3 is the filler because it gets you the main boss that's probably going to be season 5's main
Yeah,
boss.
I don't agree.
And it
but
gives you the Max and Billy story, which
I like the Max and Billy story a lot. I think we needed Max's story this season.
you get a Max. So now you like people named Max, but you won't watch Mad Max. Okay, I get it.
Oh,
okay.
that's
Pick and choose. I see.
I just want you
see
to
what
be.
we're doing
Can
here.
you just be consistent?
Sick setup there, guy. Sick setup. Well done. This Max is a girl, so grow up.
Season 1 is incredible. Like, I think I'm huge on introductions of characters. So like Fellowship of the Ring for Lord of the Rings is like one of my favorite movies. Same
Sure.
with like all the Star Wars. Like the first time you give me characters and I'm like first immersed into that world, I will remember that and I hold on to that. So season 1's my number 1. 4 so far is doing really well. I really hope they can tie it together. 2 is just an extension of season 1. That's why I can't put it below
fair.
anything. That's why 3 I would say is a filler because 3 felt like it felt like they tried to go really, really big, but maybe prematurely. Does that make sense?
I feel you. I'm with you.
Because they clearly put more money into season 3, but I think it lost a little bit of the heart that season 1 and 2 had.
That's fine. I get what you're saying. Let's talk about this season now. Let's really dive into season 4. It took us 23 minutes on the recording. And
Love that.
16 to
36 minutes if you're on Patreon.
We will definitely need to put timestamps on this one. Before we start in the review, did we feel like the age of the cast played a part in this? A lot of these kids look way older. Did we feel like this hurt the story?
I think it helped. Right? Like especially with Lucas's character, I think it enhanced what's going on here. Like I really do.
I actually agree too, but Charlie Heaton looks like a 30-year-old.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, Charlie Heaton looks like he should be. I mean, he already looks like he should be playing the Joker in the next Batman movie. But like,
I mean, but Charlie Heaton's looked old since they started.
sure. I mean, but he just looks.
That guy looks like he's been smoking like 6 packs or a pack of cigs a day since he was 3.
But I mean, Sadie Sink is 20, and we're supposed to believe she's playing a 9th grader. I'm just like,
I'm shocked that she's 20. So like I
would never have guessed that.
no, I would have never guessed she's 20. I would have said she's like 14.
and for me, I don't think it enhanced it, Jared. I wouldn't say that. But it was noticeable at times. It wasn't enough to take me out of the whole experience and be like, oh, this was I didn't enjoy myself. I do wonder if next season it's going to hurt it. But it's just a question I had. Let's talk about this show. Let's dive into a couple different things here. We're going to categorize people. So usually when we do a review, we have categorized individuals. There's so many individuals in this one that I feel like we really have to categorize them in groups. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the Russian group. We're going to do the California crew, and then we're going to do the Hawkins gang. And there's a lot of people to talk about specifically in the Hawkins gang. And then obviously 11 will be the fourth pillar. We will go to 11 last because I think she had to carry the most weight. And I know that Vecna kind of crosses over between Hawkins and 11. So we will discuss those things. But let's start with the Russian arc. Let's start with Hopper's reveal. Did you like the reveal that basically the way he made it to Russia was he just fell off the ledge? Or did you feel like that was lazy storytelling? Because there's 2 things that I would maybe go, this is a problem potentially, and that would be one of them. Him just falling over and them not seeing him. That kind of bothered me a little bit, but I know that Joyce and Murray needed to get out of the situation. Did you feel like that was lazy writing, or was like, whatever?
This was the worst. To me, this is like, of the sins that are unforgivable, this is the one. Because, like, we watched, if you go back and watch season 3, we watched everybody in that room get vaporized, like literally turned into ash immediately. And we're supposed to believe that, like, when the explosion happened, he just sort of fell over and nobody saw him. Like, it's a hard sell.
To me, it's not egregious to say I can't give it a 6. But I did feel like it was a hair lazy.
Jared just called it the worst sins of all time, but then gave the season a 6.
I was just going to say the same thing. I wouldn't call it that. I'm just
of this
more
series,
like,
this is one of the worst sins.
I just think it was really lazy. There were way better ways to do it. And it's one of the few problems I have, but that's that. Robbie, what did you think of Hopper in Russia? Talk about your perspective with him, Yuri, the other guards. Did you like that storyline? This is one storyline that the critics are kind of calling a drag, air quotes. And
I wouldn't call it a drag. I think it's curious. It's not necessarily, it's not like you need it, but it's an interesting story. And I assume that something's going to come into play with, like, the Demogorgon that they have, and the Russians are like, the Russians have to get involved again somehow, right? Because, like, if they don't, why are we doing this? Like, why didn't Hopper just die? Like, why are we diminishing, like, his death in season 3 just so Joyce can have something to do? Like, I'm enjoying the story. I don't know where it's going, I guess. And we may not know till season 5. So I like it as its own little side thing. I don't mind when we go there because I think it's very suspenseful still watching Hopper, like, and all of them go through these different things. Yuri was hilarious.
Yuri was brilliant.
So I've liked all the characters, and I like them having to fight the Demogorgon and all that. I think that's interesting. I just don't know, where's the direction? Where's it going? That's what
I was on the edge of my seat to the Demogorgon fight that they were going to have with the Russians. I totally knew it was coming. We'd seen it in trailers, and I was eating it up. The build up to this fight was absolutely brilliant in my perspective. And the storytelling with Hopper, yes, should he have been limping as well? This is the other area I was going to say, Jared, in the show. He should have been limping after he broke his legs and he's making the run out around Russia,
His foot was falling off.
Right. He should have been limping, but he wasn't. And I can let those two things go because this whole journey is Hopper having to rebuild himself as a person for what will be this huge showdown in season 5. They clearly will need him to move forward the arc in season 5, whether that's him and the Russians, him, Murray, and Winona Ryder's character, Joyce. I just know that Hopper will play a quintessential piece of the puzzle in season 5. So I really enjoyed personally watching this rebuild. The Dark Knight Rises, Robbie, is kind of how I envisioned this story arc a little bit, where Bruce Wayne has to climb out of the pit, and the only way out is up. And the only way out for him was through this Demogorgon. And obviously Joyce and Murray saved him, but that was the only way out. And I really appreciated that. And I appreciated David Harbour. This might be his best acted season, and it was his least amount of time in front of the camera. And I really enjoyed him a lot. So
what'd you guys think of Hellboy?
Well, dude, yeah, for sure. What about Murray? Is this guy not you referenced Yuri. Murray, to me, might be the funniest character in the whole show, and he does end up using his karate to beat up Russians. Just wild.
Which is what I thought that was ridiculous, to be honest. The guy's a black belt, and he's fighting, like, the KGB, basically, and he's just taking, like, 6 Russians out. Like,
You're being really critical for a guy that gave it a 5.5. I think it was brilliant.
Well, that's the reason I gave it a 5.5. I'm not Jared over here saying it's the biggest sin of all time and giving it a 6.
Nobody said biggest sin of all time. Chill out.
It's perfect, guys, but this is the biggest sin I've ever seen in the history of sins.
This is the biggest cinematic sin ever. 6 out of 6, please.
That is exactly what Jared did today. That is exactly what Jared did today.
Go back and play the tape.
Brilliant.
Play the tape, boys.
No, I really liked Murray, man. I thought Murray was hilarious. I thought Joyce kind of got the shaft in regards to a character, but I didn't need Joyce to do anything this season. She had to do a ton of heavy lifting the first 2 seasons with Will. I think I was okay with her taking a little bit of a backseat. And I think where she picks up will be when her and David Harbour's Hopper are together these last 2 episodes. I think that's where she's going to get a way bigger arc and allow more to do. For me, the Russian story arc was a 6 out of 6. I really enjoyed it. Yes, David Harbour's feet could have been better. Yes,
Yeah, his
Jarret,
feet
I
should be
agree.
falling off.
His feet should have been falling off. And yes, he could have had a better way to get to Russia, but I didn't care. And I think everything else made all that okay. And to me, that is great storytelling. Let's head over to the California crew, where we get introduced to Argyle, who I believe is the second funniest character of this season. The Stoner man. The Stoner.
Edition. Great edition.
I loved this edition. Jarret, you're shaking your head. Tell me more.
I love Argyle, but Eddie's in this season. So
You're a big Eddie fan.
I'm all in.
See, I don't know, man. Argyle looking at Murray and saying that the risotto slaps. I was just like, it's so good. It's brilliant. I really, really liked Argyle. I really thought Argyle was a great Ed. Jonathan Byers as a character is so melancholy and dark and just doom and gloom. And for him to have a character that provides levity was incredibly... I felt like it made his character better, but also let the guy live a little bit in the context of a very stressful 4 seasons of show. I mean, that guy has been through the meat grinder just as much as his brother has. So I really liked Argyle. Robbie, did you like Argyle?
I loved Argyle. I might name my next kid Argyle.
Fantastic.
That's a great name. Guy's awesome.
It's a great dog name.
That's a good dog name. I love that, like, Jonathan noticed that, like, Argyle was, like, off of his weed a little bit. And it was like, go to the van and relax. He's like, yeah, I should go to the van and relax. Because he was like experiencing the real world for a little bit there. And he's like, go smoke some weed, my guy. And then he's fine. He's
Go
just
get
fine.
blitzed out. You'll be good.
Go
I
get,
like when he
you'll be
met
alright.
Eden. He met the girl Eden.
Oh my
and
gosh.
they go to the back, and I'm kind of
That's so
expecting them to be
great.
making out.
He's
They're not
just-
even making out. They're just sitting there looking up at the ceiling, smoking
Yeah.
pot.
Just hitting those giggle sticks. Yeah.
Oh, and then when she walks away and he walks away, and when they're on the stairs, and he's like, I'd do anything.
Yeah. He's like,
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Yeah, he
That
was.
great.
Argyle was such a breath of fresh air. This
Argyle
season.
is what Jonathan needs, because Jonathan now, like, after all the Nancy stuff, like, is it blasphemous to say, like, I don't really care what Jonathan's doing anymore?
Oh, Jonathan's toast. Nancy's not going to be with him at the end of this.
No, he's not. But, like, I don't give a crap what Jonathan does anymore. Jonathan's just there. Like, he's not interesting anymore. Like, if his story arc isn't, like, the boy that nobody likes, then he's just a guy. I don't know.
Do you think the writers realized after season 2, when they got Jonathan with Nancy, that, hey, we probably made a mistake, because Steve really is a fan favorite character, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But, like,
Well, it's because Steve's story arc he's
Redemption.
improved. Yeah, it's been amazing. Like, I love Steve now. Everyone hated Steve, but everyone loves Steve now.
but that's why they love Steve so much, because they hated him.
Yeah, but Jonathan, everyone just kind of felt bad for, and then like, oh, Jonathan got the girl, and then it's just like, oh, Jonathan's still
very
kind of-
depressed.
Yeah, Jonathan's still kind of a nothing character.
I think Jonathan's role this season really continues to be watching over Will and watching over Eleven. And I think the stress of that pushed him towards drugs. And I think the stress of having to constantly be the dad that he never had has pushed him into this. And Argyle is this person that pulls him back to air quotes reality, in the sense of, like, he's like, look, dude, like, you're a kid.
Chill out.
Smoke some pot.
Yeah.
Or, like, dude, chill.
Get
like,
wild.
have some pizza. And I think that I agree with you, Robbie. This is exactly what Jonathan needed. I think Jonathan would have been incredibly frustrating to watch without Argyle to balance him out. And I really wish, I hope maybe I'll say, I guess I said we haven't seen the end of the season. It would be great if Jonathan leaned more into the weed and went more numb. And if next season, say, Nancy does break up with him, and we'll talk about her in a bit, I think that would be tremendous to see him go through that and then pull himself out of that into finding himself be a better character. And it's like, I don't need Nancy to be the character I'm supposed to be.
I like that.
I don't even need to take care of Will to be who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to do what I'm called to do, and I'm sure by season 5 they could have that built up with this group.
You think they kill
Argyle and
Jonathan?
Jonathan are great. Say it again.
You think they kill Jonathan?
No, I think they're killing Steve, but I'll talk about that in a bit.
Please no.
Because I think the people will go bananas if they kill Steve, and I think that's what they're going to do. And I think Nancy's going to have to live with that. And
Just broke me.
So I'm just saying, dude. I got a couple big predictions. That's one of them.
I'm gonna throw my microphone.
I think someone's gonna
across
die,
the-
but I didn't think it was gonna be.
Oh, for
I think
sure, someone on our team is dying.
yeah.
No question about that. It's really just a matter of is it Steve or Jonathan?
I think it's Will.
I think it's Will too.
Oh gosh, it could. Well, I'm gonna talk about Will. I got actually a different theory on Will. Let's talk about Will. So this let me talk about what Jarrett and I alluded to in the non-spoiler segment. So there's been a huge arc going around and question about Will's sexuality, and in this season, Mike obviously comes to visit 11, and Will is visibly distraught throughout the first 3 episodes. He's distraught not just watching 11 stumble as a teenager, but he's also distraught watching Mike and 11 have a romantic relationship. And I think the writers have been smoothly using previous lines, like when Will was called gay by Mike in season 2, to really set up. And you guys clearly have a theory of like, hey, he's going to die. And that's really going to be frustrating for everybody. So someone found out, or somebody referenced, on the internet. I forget the exact source, so I'm not going to reference this specific person. But in season 2, Joyce Byers looks at Will and says, do you know what March 22nd is? And it's when he's possessed by the mind flayer, and he goes, no. And she goes, it's your birthday. And if you watch on the camcorder recording of episode 2, when Elle is being bullied by that group, you can see it's March 22nd. Will Byers is not upset that he's in love with Mike. He's upset that they all collectively, Jonathan, Joyce, Elle, Mike, they all forgot his birthday. And Joyce left the country. So I think if my belief is this is going to set up Vecna dying at the end of season 5. And then Will once again be revealed to be the big bad, in the sense of season 5 he will have some form of, I'm going back to the upside down. These people don't care about me. I'm done with them, and he'll get corrupted. But this time he'll voluntarily go back, closing that arc. And then next season, 11 will have to, in my opinion, have a fight with Will, her friend, and have to make the choice of, do I kill my brother to save everybody or not? Because I think Vecna could be the big bad, but I think it would be really, really interesting to watch him die and then go, okay, now what's season 5 supposed to be like?
Well, we know Vecna's not the big bad. He's a general.
Exactly, that's what they said. So there is a big bad. You said it's the mind flayer. Talk to me about what your theory is about his death here, Jarrett. Tell me more, because you and Robbie kind of had the same theory here. What are your thoughts, Jarrett, around Will?
So I think they're trying to pull us in that direction, and it's for all the reasons that you stated, right? Like, they're building this up with him where he is really being introspective about his friendship with everybody and trying to figure out where he stands. And his conversation with Mike is really telling about this. And I think that because he was so key to every first part of, the series and really kicked off everything that Stranger Things is, I think if you remove him from the board, right, the stakes get that much higher for everybody else. Now this is not just a battle of we're tired of fighting these things from the other side, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like you've taken so much from us. You took Barbara, you took all these characters throughout the series. And so I think he is the final straw where it's like, no, we're taking the fight to the upside down. We're tired of losing people. We're tired of waiting and responding. Now it's our turn to go on the offensive.
I think that's the plan for season 5 regardless, Jarrett. I just don't know who that person is. I think that's more likely for me to be Steve. But go ahead, Robbie.
I think it's a combination of both of what you're talking about. I think Vecna is going to use how Will is feeling to affect the group as a whole. I think Vecna could do one of his Vecna or the Mind Flayer could take over Will, and he can describe to them you didn't remember my birthday. I was this piece that you saved, and now I'm nothing to all of you. And then use Will either to kill him or just to make everyone feel guilty. Because how does Vecna work? Vecna works on trauma, right? So now if he can make every single person in the group have trauma, Vecna can now Freddy Krueger everybody. Like everyone
That's
already
a
has.
really great point,
I know
Robbie.
everyone already
Robbie,
has
that is
trauma,
a
but-
tremendous point, Robbie.
Everyone already has trauma, obviously, but like he's like Vecna needs like direct
Something big,
point.
sure.
You can't stop thinking about it. Trauma, and if he takes Will and like reminds them what Will was, and takes Will from them, I think that can kind of big tremor in the friend group.
I think too, there's a very real chance that every group experiences some loss. So by that, I mean, we could see Steve die, we could see Will die, and we could see like Murray die. I think that's kind of where I could see things going. Murray jumps in front of Hopper as the Russians are shooting, or as a Demigorgon's about to eat him. Will has this issue, and then Steve dies, and then Robbie, you're nailing it. You create a collective trauma. Now Vecna can strike, and I want to talk a little bit more about what I think will happen to the group in Hawkins too. I think there's another thing that they're setting up on the board right now. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
I want to. Can I mention something real quick? And we don't have to spend any amount of time on it, but
There's so much to talk about.
I know there was a conversation going around. I can't remember who I saw it from on Twitter, where they talked about sort of a metaphor between the possessions that Vecna does, or the curse of Vecna, and people who experience thoughts of suicide. And I thought that was a really interesting conversation and something to speak of. Like, one of the best things you can do to prevent this is to invest in the people around you and pay attention to this stuff. And I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that was intentional by the Duffer Brothers, but it did feel like maybe a through line to connect those two things.
I mean, I think that speaks to kind of what's going on with Max, where they were like, you need to talk to somebody.
That's what I'm saying.
So
yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like if they like actually talk to each other, and that could even feed into the Will stuff. Like Will isn't talking to anyone. No one's talking to Will. Like there's a lot of this where like they're a friend group, a connected friend group, but they're disconnected and they're not talking to each other, and they all have this collective trauma that Vecna is obviously going to exploit probably in these next two episodes. There's so much to talk about.
I love that theory, Robbie. I love the collective trauma, and then he can attack them all theory. I think that's a great theory, Robbie. Mike and Elle, this relationship continues to grow, but then it stalls with the fight they have before Elle leaves. Mike kind of felt the most sidelined, to be honest, and I am including Will and Joyce in that. I think Mike, his role was just to lead the group to the next thing this season. He'll do more of the heavy lifting down the stretch. I don't think there's much to say there. Do we want to talk about Hawkins, or do we want to talk about 11 and Vecna? What do we want to talk about?
Let's go Hawkins first.
So Hawkins, there's a lot to talk about. So with Hawkins, we see obviously Lucas step into a role as a basketball player, makes the game-winning shot in the championship. By the way, Jarret, I had to think that you loved the editing of the D&D game.
Oh, that was phenomenal.
Finishing with the basketball championship. That's one of the best 5-minute sequences I've seen in a long time. And I also liked that it was Lucas and his sister both making the game-winning shot, per se. I thought that was really well edited. And I thought, again, this is why I talk about personality-wise. There are people who are like, I'm not sport guy. But I think you can relate to that moment of playing a board game with your buddies and landing that shot. I thought that was really well done. And so we watch Lucas do that. We see Dustin obviously is working with Mike, but he's frustrated that Lucas is playing basketball, so he has to gravitate back towards Steve. Him and oh, forgive me, I forgot her name.
Greatest duo of all time,
Robin,
by the way.
Steve, which we didn't get enough of them together. Like, it feels like they get muddled with other people around them. I would like just a Steve and Dustin episode. If I could get just one of those,
I could have a one shot of just those two just hanging out, and I would love every single minute of it.
Hey guys, Jarret here. I have a little confession to make. I cannot stop drinking coffee. If you've been around us long enough, you'd already know my little habit of making a pot of coffee at 7 p.m. each and every time I prepare to stream or appear on the podcast. Up until last year, I paid penance for this dark deed by punishing myself with store-bought value brand coffee. And trust me guys, I suffered. All that changed the day I discovered Many Worlds Tavern though. Many Worlds Tavern is an online coffee company that prides itself on being the best coffee a person could bring to game nights. I'm not just saying this, go back and watch our Twitch VODs. When it came time for me to grind my way through Dark Souls 3, the only thing keeping me energized and ready to take down the Nameless King for the 73rd time was some French press Great Old One. I like my coffee like I like my video games, dark, rich, and full of flavor. Great Old One did that for me. Mini Worlds Tavern is more than just your run-of-the-mill coffee company, though. They give back $1 of every bag they sell to gaming-related charities. That's insane, considering they're already footing the bill for ethically sourced, fair trade, and sustainable coffee. On top of that, at its heart, Mini Worlds Tavern is coffee for gamers. Each and every month, they offer a special blend unique to that month, known as their Treasured Realm. These are fantastic coffee blends paired with special RPG-related bonuses, such as magic items you can slot into your D&D campaign. If this sounds like your cup of tea, or well, I suppose coffee, you can find this and so much more at miniworldstavern.com/theinfinitybros, or use code THEINFINITYBROS, all one word, at checkout. And now, back to your regularly scheduled shenanigans.
Nancy obviously has a reporting job with the school newspaper, but her friend dies, as well as the cheerleader who is friends with Eddie, who, Jarret, you referenced earlier. Eddie, the newest character, the lead of the Hellfire Club, the Dungeons and Dragons group. For those that don't know about our podcast, Jarret is our D&D master. We have had a tough time, I think, as a group doing it, but we just love talking about it still. And I know Jarret is very passionate on this subject. Jarret, was Eddie what you wanted him to be? Because I would assume you had high expectations to how this character should act in the context of D&D. Like, how did he perform as a character for you?
I do, if nothing else, because I want that dope setup that he has. With the minis and his whole layer that he's got built there. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Eddie to me is like, I don't know how to explain this. So one of the things that I like about D&D, and especially when I run it with my students in my club, is like, it is sort of an escapism thing that people do, a way to conquer like metaphorical demons and give you power to conquer real ones in your life, right? Like, people feel excited about accomplishments all across the board, whether they mean something or not. Like, ultimately, most trophies don't mean anything, but it's the stories and the camaraderie and the stuff you build along the way, which is why that sports scene, you know, him making the game-winning shot paralleled so well with D&D, because people from the opposite camp can understand what those feelings are like, whether you're somebody who's really into sports or somebody who really is into D&D or video games or whatever your escape is. And so his character I really enjoyed because I related to a lot of the same stuff as him, and I grew up around a lot of people who were like that as well. Like, I grew up in a trailer park for a time. A lot of my friends lived with relatives rather than a parent at home and were single. You know, I really enjoyed his character, and not just like from a story perspective, but I thought he was incredibly charming. Like, his addition to this was phenomenal.
I think he at first to me seemed like a huge jerk.
Yeah.
And I believe that was very intentional in their writing, was to give him that. But as it went on, and obviously he witnesses the very first murder, and we will talk about the horror element when we get to the Vecna part of this review. When he witnesses that, that's when his character truly comes to be, in my opinion. And when you realize that separate one, you see him, he's actually a very soft character. When he got with the cheerleader initially, I was kind of expecting him to just like try to sleep with her. Yet what he wanted to do was smoke weed and get to know her,
really?
and build a deeper
relationship. I didn't get that at all.
I got that vibe. I just did. That's just what I got. And whatever but the point I mean is he zigged when I thought he was going to zag. And I really appreciate that in a show and a character. And to watch him go on the run and essentially become softer as a character, when at the very first episode of the season, he was kind of really mean to Mike and Dustin. He was glad they were in it. And he was, you know, he felt obligated to take care of them because they were losers, air quotes. But he was visibly annoyed of them. To see at the end of the season him really depend on them and the rest of the gang at Hawkins was incredibly impressive. And Jarret, we talked about this with D&D too. Historically, D&D has had a visceral reaction from suburban communities like we see in this
their whole, like, the way they approach the satanic panic and the conversation around D&D. And like, I deal with this stuff all the time. You know, I'm very active in my church. You know, I am a Christian, and I have to constantly explain to people that, like, listen, there's a perception about these things and some of the hobbies that we enjoy that just simply aren't true, or like they may be true for individuals, but as a whole, like, these are better things than they might be portrayed as. And so the way they address the stigma in this, I loved that. I totally understood that.
And the dichotomy with the basketball team too. Like, I really think that was a great like tension. And if you watch Stranger Things,
Are you saying
you feel that tension if you relate to those kids is like, oh, the jocks hated us and bullied us. Go ahead, Robbie.
Are you saying that D&D is not a demonic cult?
It's weird as it sounds. It's not, though.
Are you saying that it does not lead to demonic possession, which distorts a human body and sacrifices them?
Did Jared just freeze again? He totally did just freeze again. That's brilliant.
I think we know the answer to that question. Goodness gracious. Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. I'm sorry.
So, Jared, I did agree though with you. I think the use of what was the phrase you used?
The satanic panic.
The satanic panic. I love that. Yeah, I didn't know that was what it was called. But I thought it was a great use of the historical moment that was not only a very real thing, but is in some senses being talked about still. Jared, here's kind of the theory I've got running too. I think that the Hawkins kids are all going to get run out of the city after this. I think this is probably one of the last times we see Hawkins as a safe place for our characters this season. I think next season will be them all on the run because I think the basketball players are going to have a vendetta for Lucas. I think Lucas will have to turn heel on them. And I bet 11 comes back and does something to the basketball guys, and that head basketball player is going to get the town to go against them. So without Hopper being a cop, this town just doesn't function. And that's probably what Hopper's role in season 5 will have to be to get them locked in because they're at the epicenter of what the Upside Down can do. So that's kind of my thoughts around that. Unless you guys had differing opinions. I know Robbie's itching to get to Vecna, so we gotta start talking about Vecna here. Couple other things about the group. Steve and Nancy. I made a joke earlier about it. Do we think that Steve will end up with Nancy at the end of the season, or will one of them die? I think Steve will die.
You know, when you mentioned Steve dying, I didn't even want to think of it as a possibility, but it's very likely. Because they've done this whole redemption arc. They're doing this whole thing with him and Nancy. He keeps throwing himself into danger for everyone. I think there's a solid chance that Steve dies. I just don't like the reality of that.
It would make the story way better. Yeah, I don't see Eddie dying.
Would it make it better?
Well, maybe they should just kill the villain and everything will be happy and it'll be like a Marvel movie. Why don't they just kill the villain and maybe Steve has a limp or something?
Do you think Robin is going to end up with somebody by the end of this show too, or do you think it's just going to continue to play the whole, oh, I'm a goofy lesbian woman, I can't talk to girls, blah 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 blah? Do you think that's the route they're going with this character? Or?
I think they've done the thing where they're talking about how she's built up her confidence. Sure. Because if you remember, there's that scene where they jump out of the boat.
Yeah.
And
good point.
Eddie has that conversation. He's like, all the girls jumped in before I did. I think she could.
She's a lot of fun to watch too. And she did a great job in episode 4 when they went to the asylum. I thought her scene talking to the warden was just hilarious. And brilliant.
That was so off kilter.
And she does run weird. I like that they made the joke, but they had to have written that in after watching her run. She does legitimately run weird. That is really,
at least they addressed it.
It's not like they never address it in a Tom Cruise movie. They never address it in any Tom Cruise movie. You need to get on that. All right, Robbie, let's talk about Vecna, the season 4, volume 1, probably volume 2 villain. We come to find out that this is the original number 1 of the loony bin, as I'll call it, that is established in this. And he's also the son of Victor Creel, who we haven't even talked about him yet either, in Victor Creel's family.
It all connects,
which I thought personally
did not see that coming.
Did not see him being Victor Creel's son at all. I saw him being number 1, probably around episode 6, but I did not see him being Victor Creel's son. I thought that was incredibly well written, and Martin Brenner essentially is the reason all of this is happening, right? Martin Brenner is the reason that we have an Upside Down and that 11 did this. And we see the massacre at the beginning of the season. And Robbie, you had texted our group, hey, this is crazy that after what happened in Uvalde, that they are releasing that this week. And I thought the same thing, Robbie. I thought gutsy by Netflix to not say, hey, we're going to wait a week because of this opening scene that they did. They released that 8 minutes earlier. They like put that online, Robbie. Like, I think that's why they did it anyway, because it had already been out there.
And they did put a warning at the beginning of the season, but man, it was
jarring.
It was tough. It was tough to watch that right away.
Agreed.
Because you have, what happened last week in your mind, and then you see, there's no better term, a bunch of dead kids. And they were not like, they were gruesome with it. Like, they showed you dead kids. And it was pretty jarring to watch. No, I really thought after watching it, like, this, they maybe could have pushed this a week.
And they painted 11 as a villain right out the gate. And yeah. I totally bought it.
Oh, 100%.
Which is part of what makes this season so great, is they really bamboozled me a couple times. And this is one of them. And I really appreciated one, because 11 has this internal dialogue, and we'll get to her in a moment, but her and Vecna are kind of together in this. We got to talk about them synonymously. She says, am I a monster or a superhero? And some people are like, well, it's not black and white. And it's like, no, it is black and white in this case. Personally, for me, as I watch this, I'm like, it is black and white.
Yeah.
She either's a hero,
like Iron Man's a villain, and Captain America's a superhero.
There you go. Exactly.
Unhinged.
So I think just for me, I really, really loved not only that they played that at the beginning, but then to turn around and find out that 11 single-handedly defeated Vecna, who was probably going to do to our world what he's done to the Upside Down already. Thought was really cool. Jarret, talk about Vecna for you, the horror of him killing these adolescent kids in essentially an homage to Freddy Krueger and the movie where the girl gets dragged to the top of the ceiling. But it's worse than that. It's they're breaking bones, jaws, eyes are popping out. I mean, I could not believe what I was watching at the end of episode 1.
Popping in,
forgive me, yeah.
This was like, okay, so this was the sort of horror that I didn't expect from this series. Obviously, we've gotten some level of like body horror and stuff, but it's always been a little soft played. And this was visceral. Like the first episode, everybody could tell like this is something completely different. And they did not pull a single punch. And the fact that they kept doing it, right? Like they continued and continued. And obviously, like we saw all the gore from the scene that we just talked about with 11, where they thought that she had done all this to the other experiments. Like, this is not what I expected from Netflix, but they pulled it out, and it really it drives home the gravity of what's going on here. Like, this is scary. And I think where this lands, where something like Doctor Strange doesn't, is the horror is not part of the joke, if that makes sense. Like, it's in juxtaposition to, and so it's even more jarring because you have these sweet and lighthearted moments, and then you also have like some of the most gruesome and graphic things we've seen on television. And so, yeah, props to them for pulling this off. That was wild to me.
Robbie, why don't you talk about the horror real quick before we talk about Max?
Well, I think kind of to piggyback off of Jarret here a little bit, they were not afraid to go, okay, when we started season 1, it's PG-13, and those kids that were watching this, they're now 18 to 20 years old, and we are not going to go back to PG-13. We are growing with these kids. We're growing with this group, like the Hawkins crew, everyone that's growing, and we're running with them, and like it gets more and more serious, and they can get more and more serious. This is not a show I think I would have a 13-year-old watch. Like I can't have this on in the background with my kids in the room. Like, this is a show I watch late at night, and parents should be very careful when they watch this late at night or with their like juniors and seniors maybe kind of thing. But like, this show was not scared to grow with its audience, and I think they did a really, really good job doing that. The horror hit deep, but it wasn't, like Jarret was saying, in the way that like Doctor Strange did it. It's like horror happens and then there's a funny joke. No, it's like there's horror and it's freaking real. Like, and you gotta deal with it because now all these kids have all this. We spoke about trauma a little bit. They all have they're all gaining more and more trauma by seeing their friends be distorted in such a way.
We also get this buildup, which was masterfully done in the first half of the season, to Max being the next victim. She's the third victim. We watched the first two get absolutely not only killed, but haunted, taunted along the way. And yeah, Robbie's humming it. I mean, Running Up That Hill is now #1 on the iTunes charts. I don't think it's going anywhere for the next week. And I bet it's coming back in July 1st. And I bet you dollars to donuts, one of two things is going to happen. One, either if they're editing right now, episodes 8 and 9, that song's coming back at some point in those two episodes because of what's happened. Or season 5 is going to have that song in its trailer. You can just go ahead and I feel like that's a safe bet on one of those two things. That's the most popular song from this whole series so far.
Yeah.
I digress. The Max scene really encompasses what this show is all about to me. A big trope that TV shows and movies do that's really frustrating sometimes is the power of friendship has saved me. And they play this up, but they do it in not a cheesy way, but they do it in a way that builds on the character that is experiencing it. You knew what was coming to her if she were to die at the hands of this. And you knew that our other 3 characters were going to have to watch it. Robbie, you've talked about this, which I agree completely. That's another set of horror. It's not just the horror of what's happening to the person, but the people experiencing it with them. And they couldn't save them. There was nothing they could do. Then you add in...
So the Duffer Brothers, yeah. To their credit, too, I don't know if this was the case with you guys, but there was a good moment there where I was like, they might do this.
Oh, Jarret, you took my last point, Jarret, right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
What made that scene amazing, obviously the music, obviously the visuals, obviously Vecna's terrifying, blah, 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 blah. You did not know the outcome. When they paused to black for that 2 seconds, you're like, what's going to happen? Is she going to...
I thought the episode ended and I was kind of upset.
Well, and you don't know. Is this an homage to her? You were like, is this an homage to the character? Are we saying goodbye to Max? Or is she going to be saved by her friends? And Jarret, to speak on the depression, suicidal analogy that I do think the Duffer Brothers were leaning into of when you are in community, you have stronger bonds and less likelihood of experiencing this. I do think that was the message they were sending. And I think today in the current, I'll call it an epidemic in the context of depression with adolescents. We work with adolescents, all 3 of us. I think I feel safe in saying that. I think I can say this is a great metaphor for that. And I really hope adolescents are catching that message when this is displayed. What did you think of the scene, Robbie, with Max?
I mean, obviously they really they hit the visuals on the head, they hit the audio, and then they hit that you didn't know what was going to happen. And you're just waiting because it cuts to black and you're like, is the episode over? And this whole season throws you off because the episodes are so long. You're not really sure when the episodes are going to end because you're watching a movie, essentially.
You're watching 7 movies.
Yeah, you're watching 4 seasons of Marvel, shows.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And I don't think I would have been shocked if she would have been dead because they're also not afraid to pull that punch. Or, send that punch, I guess that's the wrong analogy. I don't know if Max is safe. I'll say that still. I think there's still a chance that Max, Vecna could still get Max because now they're, they keep reminding her, headphones, and they're, constantly making sure, she's still, ready because as soon as she lets her guard down, Vecna's going to be right there.
Let's get back to Vecna here then, Robbie. Vecna has to make a big move against 11 to get her ticked off. He's got to kill somebody, right? We've kind of alluded to this all episode. Is it Will? Is it is it Max? Is it Steve? I really think this villain has to kill somebody very major. I mean, Mike.
I think Mike is the number one target. I think the trouble with Mike is what does Vecna go for trauma-wise? Because now that I'm thinking about it, like, what has Mike sacrificed? Like, everyone else is... Mike and Dustin and Lucas haven't really sacrificed that much besides their friends, you know, going through some stuff.
Sure.
Everyone else has had to deal with some big things.
Yeah.
So, like, what has Mike had to sacrifice so far? I don't know where Vecna goes with that.
Well, what about Nancy? I mean, Nancy, could that be the catalyst to make the group frustrated? Because obviously at the end of the season, he does the whole villain monologue, which I thought was funny. It was like, let's give him a monologue, have him put his hands behind his back and start talking in a British accent about his plan to James Bond. Like, that was also a little bit on the nose, in my opinion, but it needed to happen to connect the remaining dots. But I think Nancy could be dying too. I think this could just be our last, like, kind of doing what we did with Max, but in the reverse way. It's like, okay, we feel safe now that Max lived and now Nancy will die. I don't know, but I feel like Vecna's got to kill somebody to make this season really count for him as a villain.
It's going to be one of the four boys, right? It's either Mike, Will, Dustin, or Lucas. Like, like one of them, I just assuming is going to die this season. Like, and I think
I think to Max's credit though, like, Nancy did have the vision with
Barb.
What is her name? Barbara?
With Barb
in the pool. So like, it's not unfounded.
You're
Well,
right.
that would hit Mike, which would hurt 11.
And Steve.
It would hit Steve.
And Steve.
It would hit Jonathan, which will hit Will. I don't know if Nancy carries that weight. I think you're right, Robbie. I think it has to be the major four, or it could be Max. Max is 11's best friend in theory, best female friend.
Right.
I just think Vecna, the one thing he's missing this season is a major kill. He needs a major kill, and I don't know who it's going to be, but he has to kill somebody in the gang if he's going to be in season 5. Or 11 has to kill him, and they got to bamboozle us with a bigger villain. And I think if they're bamboozling us, it's going to have to do with Will.
Well, they are. We're telling you there.
We know the Mind Flayer is like...
The Mind Flayer is the the boss.
Sure,
like,
but I'm
already,
saying, I guess I'm saying
like,
more of like who represents that is what I'm saying. Is it Vecna or is it Will is what the point I make. I understand the dialogue we're saying. Yeah, let me make sure I get this actor right too.
Are we going to talk the Vecna actor?
The Vecna actor.
Jamie Campbell Bower.
Robbie, go ahead. I know you wanted to say something about him.
Dude, Peter Ballard is the next great Joker. He's the next great like villain of something. That guy has the face. He has the eyes. Like he has the
Dude looks haunting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he did a really good job because early in the season, I thought he was legit just a soft character there to help. And as the season goes, you're kind of like, okay, there's some sort of ulterior motive here.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, you're just like, this guy is just feeling for these kids. Like, so this guy is the next great villain actor, I think. And I'm really excited to see what he does after this, because I think there's going to be some doors that are going to open up for him. But that switch from him going from like just a guy helping 11 to I got this thing out of my neck, like, and now I'm going to go on a freaking rampage. And it's not 11. It's this guy. It's Peter Ballard. Yeah, Peter Ballard is what he's named as, and which is kind of, why is it Peter Ballard?
That's his name.
Is that his name in the facility?
No, I believe that's his real name. Neither here nor
Well,
there.
his last name would be Krill, technically.
Creel is his real last name. Yeah.
Right,
But
he
he's got major Bill Skarsgård vibes too from It.
Extremely.
Like,
that's what I was
major
thinking, yeah.
Pennywise. If they wanted to do a Pennywise remake, call this guy up too. That'd be the other.
No. If they got to do a Freddy Krueger remake now.
That's a great point too. He'd be a great Freddy Krueger. I mean, he's a great villain. Robbie, you nailed it too. For television today, what makes a really great show is if I can't predict what you're doing and your writing does show me along the way and I just never connected. And that's what this show does. And that's why I'm way, way more likely to forgive things with the Duffer Brothers. They are playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So when I referenced earlier that video camera where it's March 22nd, they tweeted the week before the premiere that some people forget D&D and other people forget birthdays. Like, these guys are on another level. I am willing to deal with some of the dumb loopholes for the long-term vision. They've got a very clear plan established for the next 2 episodes this season and whatever episodes are in season 5 that I trust whatever direction.
DC should hire those guys.
Somebody's got to hire them. I mean, you referenced Marvel shows earlier, Robbie. If I was Kevin Feige, I'd give them all of the Marvel shows. I would say you guys own the direction of where we go with the multiverse. Here's where I need you to meet with me apex-wise with movies, and let's go do it from there. I think that's
How
what
good
that's
could
what
have
yeah.
Doctor Strange been if the Duffer Brothers had a hold of it?
I don't want them to do a movie, Robbie. I want them to do the TV shows. I think they are multi-layered, multi-season writers. I don't think they're 90-minute writers. I really don't. I think they need.
Oh, every single one of their episodes is 90 minutes. It's great.
They need 12 to 15 episodes of that to do it, though.
But they only get 30 minutes in a Marvel.
That's another argument. I think Marvel better watch Stranger Things here and go like, hey, you know what? We can go 50 to 90 minutes.
Hey, you know what? Content sells.
Because people will binge it.
What if we do a good job?
People will binge it.
What if we do a good job and end the season well?
Yeah.
What if we do that?
Let's close with 11.
That'd be wild.
11, our main hero, and we obviously find out through the eyes of 11 that Martin Brenner is alive. We obviously get that homage to him at the beginning of the season when we talk about the massacre that happens in Hawkins. But Brenner's back, he's alive. And then Sam Owens, the other scientist, essentially tells 11, look, we're at war. We're not going to win without you. And I think for me as a viewer, I was led to believe like, oh, it's the war with the Upside Down. And no. It's not the war with the Upside Down. It's the war with one. They know exactly who Vecna is. And they're not telling us. And so their whole time they set up this project called the Nina Project, which I thought was a masterful way to get into the backstory of 11. I thought the de-aging thing was wonky at times. However, it worked in the context of the storytelling. Robbie, I agree with you. I really didn't pick up on number 1 being around till like episode 6. Like,
yeah,
he just was a filler character in the background for so long. They did a great job of giving him enough screen time to make it noticeable that he was there, but not much after that. What did you guys think of 11's arc this season? Obviously, she's just absolutely devastated at the beginning of the season by probably some of the Hall of Fame worst bullies I've ever seen. That girl and her little posse. Yeah. I mean, they were brutal.
Angela sucks. Angela's the worst.
Angela was the worst. When 11 hit her in the nose, I was like, and what's the problem?
I was like, this is fine.
I was like, she's bleeding on the nose. Who cares? She didn't have to go to the police for that. I was like, are you serious? Like, that was ridiculous. But yeah,
I got big like Rugrats vibes from Angela. They got the same
yes,
name. Like,
Angelica vibes, 100%.
Angelica, like screw this chick.
100%. Jarrett, what'd you think of this arc for 11?
I thought it was fantastic, and I think that some of the stuff that they touched on. Oh gosh, so season 2 is hit or miss for me. It's good, but it didn't hold up to season 1. Part of the reason that I softened down a little bit was because of 11's arc in that. I think when she leaves for a little bit and she's traveling around with the other like people with superpowers, that one didn't really sell me. With the stuff that's going on in this and the fact that somebody else survived the experiments, this season made that season better. That bumped up my rating. And I love the journey that she's on here, right? She's devastated because she thinks Hopper is gone. She latches onto the one thing that is really true and solid to her, which is like, no, I am a hero. Like, when people need me, I am there and I can do this. And, you know, I'll go through whatever. I'll face my fears again. I'll go to this scientist that abused me all through my childhood. And I'll still do this for my friends.
Sure.
And I love that. She is the superhero.
I agree. That was the big message I wrote down in my notes about this season was, you are a superhero. Stop believing that you're not. And 11's arc, Jerry, you nailed it. This makes seasons 1 through 3 better. We have a full grasp and understanding now of season 1 of why Brenner was chasing her. He was chasing her because he thought we had another Vecna on our hands. That was why he was chasing her so religiously. It wasn't necessarily because 11 was bad, but we were led to believe that 11 was bad. Additionally, this really makes Brenner look even worse like as a character. He is like truly he is the Frankenstein of this series. No question about it. And this is showing what happens if Frankenstein got a second chance to take out the first monster. That's what's happening.
Well, it even gives like an understanding to Vecna, which you know is always a problem. Like, is like a bad guy's just bad because he's bad. Like, no, this gives like an entire reason why Vecna is doing what he's doing, and it all comes back to this doctor playing Papa playing Frankenstein, and then being terrified of the monster that he's created.
Tale as old as time. Everybody's got daddy issues.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like that's what they're leaning into. I mean, and it's a facetious joke, but I make the point of like, I really thought it was layered, and we're not going to really get into depth with the Creel discussion, but I think Creel the whole time was a setup to really send you down a path of like, hey, really all that the Creel thing is it's an entry point into the Upside Down, and the boy was the problem the whole time. The other thing that I've noted, and this is kind of why I lean really heavily into Will being a bad guy, they describe Will as emotional in the first season. That is what Victor Creel describes his son Vecna as, an emotional young boy. There's a part of me that still thinks Will might be the bad guy. We don't know what Will was doing in the Upside Down in season 1. We don't know what he did in there. And I think that will be explored in season 5 the same way 11 has been explored. And we could come to find out that there's more evil to Will than we think. And we may have not gotten the Will back that we had. And it's a huge plot hole. They kind of got to explain it. How did Will survive the Upside Down if Vecna was in there?
And everything else.
How did he survive with Vecna in there? I just don't, because Vecna was sent there the day that Will was sent there.
I understand what you're saying. Like, and I think the Will turning heel, like, makes sense. I don't know if they're going to go that deep to it. I think in my head, that doesn't make sense. I think they'll stick to kind of what you said at the beginning. Like, Will is, you know, the boy that was saved, the boy that was lost, and the boy that was saved. And then everyone just kind of forgot that Will even existed, and his mom kept giving him a bowl cut. And now the boy needs to get those emotions out. And Jonathan didn't give him any weed, and now he's just like, he's lost and looking for direction. And I think
and his friends suck, and everybody forgot his birthday.
Yeah,
and I think that's something Vecna can exploit. And instead of killing him, he will look at that and be like, I can use this as a way to turn the group. I don't know. I like that storyline. I like that for Will.
No, I just make more of the point of, Robbie, I guess the point I'm saying is the Duffer Brothers are way too smart.
Yeah.
They have covered all their bases. They have been on top of everything. I have a very difficult time with us not knowing what happened with Will in the Upside Down. And I think now that we're going back to 11's story prior to her being released and hanging out with the gang, I think we're going to see that next season. And I don't think it's going to be as pretty and clean cut as we think. And this ambiguous emotion that Will has, I think the writers are leaning into it to make the audience think it's a sexuality thing, to then zag to a different storyline, which is fine. It's because the audience naturally latches to that, I think, with the interaction with the girl and how Mike is being looked at. But there's more to Will than meets the eye. And maybe I'm like way off base, or I'm being too aggressive with his future, but there's something there in my opinion. And I really think the Duffer Brothers are setting up a big moment with him. And it could be his death. You guys kind of predicted that. I think that's a great example. That could be it too. It's
got to come full circle. And
something has to happen here with Will. He is far too important for them to be forgetting his birthday.
Can't we just kill Mike? That's like, just get rid of Mike.
If they killed Mike, really the only one ticked is 11.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's all you need to do. You just got pissed.
And Will.
You piss off. I mean, Will be mad, but like 11's the one that can do something about it.
Nancy won't even care. She'll be just hanging out with.
Yeah, I like the fact that like I can't even tell their brother and sister. Like, they haven't even made that connection once this season. Like, oh yeah, they're still brother and sister.
Sure.
Like, I don't care. Like, who cares? Like,
Worst
kill Will.
parents of all time. Where do the Stranger Things parents rank in the pantheon of worst parents?
All the parents are the worst, man. Like, except for Hopper and Joyce.
But
All the
that's the
parents
point
suck.
of this, though, because it's like an 80s style show where every single parent is like the prototypical,
Crappy.
Do their job, read a newspaper, watch TV. Oh, all these kids are the worst. Stop doing all them drugs, kind of thing. Like it's great. They are making the show as if they were making it in the 80s in that regard.
Will's dad
it's
really
brilliant.
truly is the ultimate.
Will's dad is
80s
Nick
dad.
Gillette. I know no one knows who Nick Gillette is.
You mean Mike's
Nick
dad?
Gillette is a friend of ours, and
Yeah.
that is 100%.
That's Nick Gillette. You know what?
Will's dad is Nick Gillette.
Nick's daughter runs in. Dad, there's a portal to an upside down that's threatening our reality. How about you stop eating my pancakes?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go
All right.
fishing.
See, you gotta go mow the lawn again.
Can you start paying your rent to be here more often? Just,
No one understands this besides our friends.
Yeah, that's fine. It's an inside
terrible
joke. We all
podcast.
hope to be part of one day. So. Any predictions to the end of the season that we have? I really don't know how you can predict this show. I mean, I could not have predicted the direction they went with Vecna here. I think they did a great job. I really tip my hat to the Duffer Brothers. A lot of people complain that 3 years was too long. I'm with you, Jarret. I think it really was a strength for this show to get away from it, come back and go, wow, I really did miss being in Hawkins with these characters. I'm really excited for the end of the season. Volume 2 is going to be tremendous July 1st. Thoughts from you guys before we close out?
Is the captain basketball player the worst person ever? The worst character of all time? Do we?
He's
hate
a
him? How
great
much do we
trope
hate him?
too. He's a great job.
Oh yeah,
trope.
he's the freaking oh gosh, now I'm the guy from Scooby Doo, the main guy,
Fred.
the guy with the blonde. He's Fred.
Yeah.
He's 100% Fred.
He's crappy Fred.
That's incredibly disrespectful to Fred, but okay.
But that's the trope that they're going for, like the all-American boy. Like he's basically a politician and he's 18
Totally.
years old.
Yeah, that kid is
Like,
totally going to be a senator in 20 years in this universe.
Yeah, and I hate him. I
Yeah,
just want to punch him in the
100%.
face.
Yeah, he has no
the
substance.
worst.
He doesn't really have an opinion. He just flies by the seat of his pants.
Yeah,
Totally.
He's just leading. Yeah, and it's going into that again, that 80s trope of like the cool kid now is going to go
Sure.
beat up the D&D guys.
Yeah.
Like, I get what they're doing. I just hate him. I don't like him at all.
Yeah,
Love it.
I love it too.
I'm just looking through the cast and I'm just thinking of who's expendable. Who's
None
gonna
of
die?
them. That's the problem. I mean, in reality, none of them are expendable, and the expendable ones are not worth killing. They're not going to have the emotional weight.
Lucas isn't worth killing.
I think
would
Lucas
say.
has a huge amount.
I think, yeah.
I think if Lucas died, that would be a tremendous problem for everybody.
Do you think so?
Oh yeah, I think Max. Think of Max.
Okay, but that's like just with Max though. Like that's the biggest connection.
And the whole thing where because they built up this thing where it's like he's trying to exist in both worlds. He still is very important to these
Which I love that
guys.
storyline,
Yeah,
but I don't know how much weight it holds. Like looking at the other ones, if they die, like
The only
if Will
expendable
dies,
person
it's
on
the
this
kid that
list.
was saved that dies. If Mike dies, 11's pissed. If Dustin dies,
Dustin's not dying. He's the safest of the group. They can't
they
kill him.
can't. They will not kill Dustin.
They won't
The
ever let him
fans
get
will
hurt.
revolt.
The only truly expendable person is Eddie.
No,
and
he doesn't
Argyle.
have enough emotional weight.
no,
Argyle ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think Max is right. I think Steve is very much on the chopping block because I think he carries a lot of weight. He carries weight with Dustin. He carries weight with Nancy. He carries weight as like being the muscle that they've created him into be for this group. I think Jonathan holds the least amount of weight.
That's
like I don't
probably
think
true.
that would
I think Robbie holds more weight than, or Eddie holds more weight
Robbie
than
really wants Jonathan dead.
Yeah.
Because he's nothing now. He's just the guy that somehow got
He's Argyle's friend. That's his role.
I'd be more upset if they destroyed Argyle's van than if they killed Jonathan.
He's like 50 years old playing a 19-year-old kid. That guy looks like his face just is falling to the ground every time.
Yeah, it's been falling apart for 10 years. It makes no sense.
Poor guy just has a resting, sad face.
He just, I don't want to dog on this because he's probably like a really nice guy, but he does look perpetually tired.
Perpetually depressed.
Yeah. Like he hasn't slept in years.
Sure. I mean, it's fine. He's a great actor. Does a great job. It's just
shout out. I don't know what we're doing now, but shout out to Noah Schnapp for playing Will Byers and still sticking with the bowl cut.
Yeah, dude. Boys rocking it.
He wanted to get rid of it this season. They still came out with the bowl cut.
I can't believe they did that. Like the kids in high school now.
Everybody else has changed their looks completely. And he's
like his mom isn't a loser. Like Joyce is like a little weird. Oh, Joyce is a little weird. But okay, can we talk about how Joyce had just $40,000 and she just got it from the bank?
Can you imagine if somebody asked you for a ransom of $40,000? Like,
it was the college fund that Hopper set aside for 11.
Is that what it was? Did I miss that little snippet?
Oh, see, this is Duffer Brothers writing again.
See, and I just missed that.
Just tremendous. So. Well, we're way over, and editing this episode is going to suck.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, thanks. We love you, 3000. Bye.
Check out the Patreon.
Well, Robbie, thank you so much for coming on and making time for this, dude. And thank you for sharing your opinions. And I hope that Steve dies.
I hope Steve doesn't die. I hope Jonathan dies. Hopefully.
I know. That's why I said I hope Steve dies. I hope Jonathan lives for the rest of eternity.
I hope Argyle. I hope they'll make an entire show on Argyle.
Give me an Argyle spinoff. I'm all in.
Yeah. Give me Argyle, Steve, and Dustin just chilling.
Steve's dead, man. Jarret, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that you have a great rest of your week.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you too. Hey, thank you, Infinity Bros Universe, wherever you listened, however you listened. Thanks for making us part of your podcast experience. You can check us out on Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and join our Discord. All of these links are in the links in the show notes. You can also see our timestamps if you want to go back and listen to specific portions or just overall rate us on iTunes. If you're still here, we'd love it if you leave us an iTunes review. We'd love to read it on the air. I promise if you leave it, I'll be nice to you like I was to the ODPH podcast. Thank you to them for the shout out. And thank you to our friends at Many Worlds Tavern Coffee. As always, love you guys 3000. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.